Okay, so now I have got all my pieces of paper cut into doubles. And I'm putting them together. But if you put them all together like that, all of them, and fold it, you get an uneven edge. And you'd have to trim it, and it'd be too fat here, and it wouldn't look right. So that's why people use signatures. Collections of pages. So let's put them 2s and 2s. 2 and 2 and 2 and 2. So, and so is the operative word here. I've got myself some needles here. It's not as difficult as it can be made to sound. It really isn't. Now, these have got nice points on them. This one's as blunt as anything. So, let's put that one to one side for a minute. It has got a bigger eye on it, though. But there we go. So, these two have got points. And they've got narrow eyes. So we want to sew these together like that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? In order to do that, we've got to make little holes, sew them together. And I would use this little needle. You can always make a bigger hole later. And what I like to do with the first one is fold it in half and pinch so that I've got the centre of the folded pages, and then on either side I can just eyeball to where I want to put it. One there and one the other side. But before I take that out, now that I've got the hole, I'm going to poke this, hopefully, in there. I'm going to attempt to pass this through here. If it's too thin, you see, it's too thin an eye. Ooh, it's actually going to work. The other way to do it is the way I did it on the other book, on that little one there. And the way I did that was just to poke with a pokey tool or an awl and just poke the thread through and push it through with the awl to make sure it gets went through. It does make it a little bit ragged and not very neat though, which is another reason for using the string and needle in. I'm using the string in a smaller amount. There you go. So that's on the inside. That should have been on the outside. Okay, so that's the outside. And then I'm going to poke my way through on the other side. Where's my middle again? There. So in between is there, to make it look neatish. Now once you've got one of these with the holes poked, you can use that to line up the next one. It's through. And I'll thread it through there. So that when you've pulled it through, and if you have difficulty, use a nice pair of pliers to pull the thread and needle through. And once you've got it like that, when you look at the inside, it's a nice neat line and not a little knot or bow. And you put those at the back, and then when you put a binding on the outside, it's all hidden away, you can't see it. So I will now not make you watch this, I'll just do the start of the next one, because what I'm going to do is line it up like that, so that the next one's going to be even. And I will make another hole in that one and just thread it through. And then you've got a nice little neat one there. If I simply fold that one over the other way so that it goes like that, that's better, so that you've got the sewing on the outside and not the inside, just the line on the inside. So we've got that one, so just line it up with that, and I want to go through just there. You see how that point of the needle lines up with my thread? Yeah, I hope you can see that. See how it actually lines up? Yep. So I'll now pull that through with my handy dandy set of pliers. You don't really need the pliers. I mean, if you're a bit stronger than me and don't have awkward hands, you can probably do it with no problem whatsoever. So that now I have got 2 signatures sewn together. So if I pull that tight and that tight, you can see that that's nice and tight now. Okay, and I will continue on doing the next one. Now I don't need the needle anymore for that bit. I can take it off, and what you're left with is 2 bits that you can just tie up like that. And you see where that's coming apart? Don't worry about that. I have a plan. What you do is you tie that together first. So that you've got that nice and tight. Not too tight though, because you don't want to bulge it out too much. And then take the longest thread, which is that one, and pass it, should have kept the needle, pass it under there, but that's okay, I can always rethread. This is natural hemp I'm using here actually, and you could even take this down further. I split it down because it was much too thick, the original. I've just passed it through there, and now I'm going to catch up this loose bit here. See, the loose piece. I'm going to go in there, just between the stitch, it's not back into the paper. Good, and then make it go along a bit further. Into this one, and all you're doing, like I said before, is going through the page and under the stitch, coming out. You're not actually going through the paper again. And then all I've got to do is tie these 2 loose ends together. Simple. This is just a mini journal, so it doesn't need to be quite so tight as other journals. Oh, that's why it's so tight. There you go. And just tie the 2 together again. Now, yes, you've got a load of loose cord down here, but you're going to be putting a binding over it, and you can thus secure that with some glue to hold it in place, or a little piece of, some people use a little piece of cloth as well. There you go. Well, that's perfectly good enough for this purpose, and there you go. You've got your nice little book. Now I can tie that a bit tighter and a bit better, and try and get it a bit less loose. It's a little bit on the loose side, but that's perfectly acceptable. Makes a nice little book. See, 16 pages, done. Then the next thing is to colour it. Here's the hemp I was using, and here you can see the thickness of the original thread, and here's how thin it becomes when you cut it down. But you could cut that down even more by separating this out. There's 2 strands there, and there were 3 in this, so 3 like that. 1, 2, 3. There you go. It's called True Hemp. I don't want it too much bigger, but enough to fold over. So I could do with a pencil, really. Never mind. Another way to do it. Yeah. Giving it a little bit of extra leeway than I need. Cut it up like that. Here we go. Mod Podge. Right, the next stage is to dab a little glue along this edge. Along there. Okay, and I'm going to snip that even more than I have already, because I want it not to lie any further than that bit of sewing. So all the sewing together. There we go. That's already the right length. So, little dab of Mod Podge along the centre spine, and I'm going to bend it over to take in that piece. And then I'm going to do this bit as well. I should probably only do that after that's stuck, but I'm impatient, which no doubt you are too. So I'm going to put some on there. Right. And I've got this nice block here. You may not have something quite that heavy, but like I said, a nice paint pot or something would do it just fine. Now, the next stage is to fold over these edges. Now you can see that I've already cut angles. I'm not sure if they're quite right. I tried to cut them wider than I think I'm going to need them, because then I can trim them down to fit. If you cut them too narrow, you can't trim them down, can you? There's one. There's two. What I was thinking of doing with this, you can see I've done this one, and on the inside I used another piece of the same thing as an end piece there. What I was thinking of doing with this one was using this same stuff, but this time putting the darker one on the inside to give a contrast, instead of using the light side. Okay? So I'm now folding this up, and you can see how this is overlapping this one. Let me hold that a bit closer to the camera for you. You can see how this piece, there's a less acute angle there. So one of these I'm going to cut. I'll probably put this down first and then cut that one to match more. Okay? That's what I usually do. I usually do that way around. So, a little bit of Mod Podge on it. Let me just dry off my brush a bit. There we go. So, this end first. Fold it over. And then this one. Fold it over. It's going to need something to hold it down, because this is much more bendy and got more stiffness to it, because of all the Mod Podge and gesso and paint that we put onto it. So this one's going to be too much flapping over, so I'm going to trim that just a tiny bit there. That's better. And the same with that one. Just a tiny bit there. That'll do much better. It's still overlapping a bit, but it's a better shape here, you see, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to put a piece of that on the top. I just like to be neat. the only thing I do like to be needing. Now, turn that over. Now I'm going to get a piece of this now. I'm not going to hang about. I'm not going to do that end first before doing it, is what I mean. So, I shall fold that over the top like that and cut it. I don't want it to be quite the same size, so I'm going to cut it just a little bit under. And I'll probably trim it as well anyway. You'd probably, if you prefer, you know, measure that, then measure that amount there, and, you know, all that. I'm much more free and easy with it than that, which is probably why mine's always wonky. There you go. Now, that is too wide, which is lovely. Oh, look. Well, that's come, a layer of paper has come apart where the Mod Podge bubbled up. That's fine. I can always Mod Podge a bit more underneath. Not a problem. It's going to be too big, so... Right, lovely. Now, I'm going to stick a bit of Mod Podge where the paper is separated into its layers there before doing anything else. Just a little bit in there. Now I'm going to take this and pop it on top like that. That's my nice weight. And then I'll do the same with the other side. It won't take long. It's only about 2-3 minutes. It's not very long at all. Just enough for it to be tacky enough to hold. Then you can put it aside for later. Right, now that's stuck down, and I've done the other side as well there. See, I've got both end papers in. And what you're left with are these little flibbly bits. These little flippy bits. Right, from where you were snipping off and folding over. So what I do with that, there's two options. You can either just cut it off or cut it to a different shape, like that. And then you find the centre. Well, not quite the centre, this bit here where it's flapping open, you'll find it, and then glue that, fold it over and glue it down to the back, like that. And the same with this one, fold it over and glue it to this piece of the back that's showing through. If you don't have any back showing through, it's perfectly okay to just snip it off. In fact, that's what I'm going to do with this one. There we are, snipped off. And the same with that one. There you go. All neat. Now you notice that the pages are a little bit proud here. Look, just a little bit. You can trim that, but it's so slight that you don't really need to if you don't want to. And I've got my lovely texture on the front. See? The beautiful texture I deliberately made there. So there we go. Two nice little mini journals. Now all you need to do now is do your decorating. You know, you're decorating your pages and perhaps putting something else on the cover. I don't think I really want to put any more on that cover. It's so nice as this is. But it's a teeny weeny journal to go in your bigger journal. The last thing to do is, well, the last thing that I'm showing you, zoom in, is to use those nice bits of printed tissue that I did earlier. Okay, So what I've done is I put the bunny rabbit on the front of that one, just there. That's all, nothing else. I might put the owl at the top. I may not put any more at all. And on this one, I've begun to actually decorate the inside. Now, neither of these is particularly dry. That's a bit dry, but not very. So I warn you, when you use this kind of tissue and you paste the paper or paste the back of the tissue, put it down, paste the front, stop at that point. If you do any more, if you come back and think, oh, it's not quite stuck, I'll just put a bit more on. You can so easily, now that the tissue is completely saturated, you can so easily damage the tissue. Don't. Come back tomorrow, a few hours later. Not immediately. Just sit and let that dry. Okay? Here's a continuation of the little mini journal, one of them. And on this one, I am adding a little ribbon as a internal bookmark. So I'm going to glue it down to there. And when it's closed, it will just poke below the bottom of the book. So when you put it to mark that place, you'll be able to see where your bookmark is without it being too big. Okay, so I'm going to use heavy body gel because I've had good luck with it before. It's not the 3D one, but it's a good strong adhesive without being too invasive, and it's transparent. So I'm going to grab myself a little dodge of that and just, I'm putting it on the underside of this ribbon so I know exactly where it's going. Now I didn't put it all the way up, so peel it back and put a bit more on. Don't want too much, or it's all going to squidge out like it's starting to on one side there. Tissue. That's something I also meant to mention. Doesn't matter if you get glue on it, but this is one of my tissues that I used to mop up the ink. You can see how it's managed to leave the lovely spiral shapes from the impressions put into the kitchen roll by the manufacturer, which is quite nice, so I'm happy about that. I'm just going to mop this little bit excess up. There we go. Now that looks a bit odd like that, so I thought that I would use a nice little piece of decor. I've no idea what you call this. It's some kind of sort of floral ribbon, and it comes on a roll or a strip, you know, like this one did. It's just sort of attached together by its own sewing, as it were. And I just cut one off, and while that's setting up, I'm thinking about this one, and I like this little tiny leaf, and I thought I'd try it on the back, because that way you can turn it into a reversible mini, journal. And there you go. Now I would recommend painting over this with either gel or Mod Podge or something after it's dried and it's in place, because this is a real leaf and it's very brittle, so it's just going to break if you don't seal it down. And if you do seal it down, it's possible that it may stop turning colour and keep some of that red. Some people have reported this to be what happens to theirs, so that's always a possibility. Veins in the leaf, and they're standing proud, so they are stopping the glue from contacting the paper otherwise. So that's that. I want it to go like that. Now I may stick the stem down as well, but it's possible that the stem won't want to stick down so much, as again it's like a sort of vein on its own. So that all depends on whether it sticks or not. If it doesn't stick very well, what I'll do is I'll just snip it off. So leave that to set up, and then back to this one. And I'm not going to close it, but I could get, well, I'm sort of going to close it, another leaf on there. You like that? That's nice. Yes, I think I might do that, but this time, before doing it, I'm going to snip off the stem, so I don't have to worry about that. And besides, it would be obtruding over the side. You like that? Looking quite good against the pink. I know this is more than I was planning on doing, but you get carried away, you know. The next day you go all enthusiastic again and think, because you were tired the day before, so you weren't quite so enthusiastic. And it's like, I've done enough. Don't want to do any more. That's enough. And then next day, ooh, I think I'll add that. Of course, whenever I press leaves, I always end up with a little bit at the end of one of the leaves, like there, where it just bends. Well, you don't really want it to, but ho hum, it bends. There you go. Put those scissors out of the way. Now then. That's better. Ho hum. There you go. Leave that now to dry.